This is it, people. This is what you've been waiting for. This is Everyday Celebrity Podcast. The podcast for everyday people with everyday problems, trying to find everyday solutions to accomplish everyday goals. Let's start the show. Welcome to another episode of Everyday Celebrity Podcast, No One Podcast in Oakland, No One Podcast in the Bay Area. And today we are joined by a woman who works for the Secret Service.
Stop.
A woman who is in a field.
Gender fluid femme.
Yeah. A gender fluid femme?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Octavia.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
How was your day today?
It was great.
Yeah?
I was nervous. Didn't sleep last night.
Nervous about this?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Why?
Because
Never been interviewed before?
I've been interviewed only once before by my friend Michelle in New York. Michelle Rose.
For like a job though, right?
No. No. For like, she was trying to, I was telling her about my green card, the process of getting my green card and how I needed, people to know of my work. And one way to do that is through news and stuff. And she's like, oh my God, like I'm writing, this column for this online magazine, about extraordinary or interesting women that aren't necessarily within music, because the online magazine was a music oriented magazine. We should do it together. And obviously, like, it didn't come out like in time to be used for the green card. I think we mentioned it or something, but that wasn't like, that didn't actually help my green card situation, but it was really fun. So I'm excited.
You said a green card. So you're, where are you from?
I'm from Romania.
Romania?
Bucharest.
Okay. When did you come to the States?
First time I set foot on American soil was in, I think November 2016, or October 2016.
What was the reason?
I met a man at a party in Berlin and I fell in love. And he said, you should come to New York sometime. And I actually did.
And just stayed?
Well, it was a long-term relationship. So I was like back and forth between Germany and New York for a couple of years. And eventually I got stopped at the border because it was Trump. Trump's first term, and they told me, like, you can't come into the country like as a tourist more than once. Like, what are you doing here? And so they took me in the back. I spilled all of the beans. I told them I'm a PhD student.
Was that true?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I was doing my PhD in Bucharest, which meant that there was nobody like financing my PhD. Like my scholarship wasn't like enough to like actually allow me to do that full time, and so I was like working. So I think at the time I was contracting for people in New York, but from Romania when they stopped me, like. I think it was November 2017 at that point.
Were you guys talking about getting married or something?
Yeah, like briefly. There was a moment. Like after that, so after like, being stopped and telling them everything about me, I went to a lawyer and I was like, yo, is this good? Like they allowed me to stay in the country on a B1, but I was like, now what? And the first lawyer I talked to was like, okay, you're gonna like, you cannot like leave America and attempt to come back on the same visa. Like you have to get a work visa if you want to be able, if you want to not risk being deported.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh man, I was just trying to like have fun, just trying to go to parties in New York, and now I have to like get a work visa. Like what?
So when
I got the work visa, yeah.
So when
I was, like,
you left, right? You left New York, and then you attempted to come back, and that's
like
when they stopped you when you were in the States getting off the plane.
Yeah, like I was getting off the plane,
and they told you couldn't come, and you had to go back.
No, they said,
they let you in?
They just like took me in the back room with like people who barely spoke English and asked me like, why am I coming into the country so often? And so I had to tell them like, I have a situationship with a fuckboy in America. Like,
but they let you in.
Yes, they did let they like the situationship, fuckboy, like friends, like that didn't work. But what worked, me telling them that I have a PhD that I'm working on a PhD at University of Bucharest also did not help. They were like, is that an online university? But what did help was saying, just Google my name. Like the first thing that will come up is like my Google Scholar, this is how many I have. Like at the time, I had like 21 papers, or like 16 papers. This is how many citations I have. Like,
yeah. So how long did you stay?
I only stayed, like they gave me like 6 months to stay on the B1. And I was kind of like, that was kind of a pivotal point for me and like my journey of, I don't know, becoming who I am now, I guess, becoming an American. Because I was like, do I want to risk never being able to come back here? Or do I want to like go through with it? And so I kind of like just started, like at the time I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD. I wasn't aware that I had ADHD. So I just like hyperfixated. I wasn't medicating. So I hyperfixated on figuring out how to stay, basically. So I must have talked to like 6 lawyers. One of whom was like one that does like green cards for like people who marry. So I was considering that, but then it was literally like a last minute thing. Like we were trying to rent out one of the rooms in the 2-bedroom that we were staying in, Williamsburg. And
I love Williamsburg, New York. Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, Brooklyn. It was like back when Williamsburg wasn't the new Manhattan of New York.
Well, that's where all the hipsters are.
Yeah, it was like very hipstery, South Williamsburg. Right by the Hasidic community and the Dominicans. And yeah, everybody was speaking a different language in English. Like there,
a lot of Jewish people out there too.
Yeah.
In Williamsburg. Okay.
And so this person who was like looking to rent out the room, the other room, was like, asking, like we were doing a little bit of an interview and asking, like, what does your girlfriend do? What do you do? And we were talking about like how I'm like trying to get an O1 visa because that was the other option, an extraordinary ability visa. And she's like, oh my God, like my co-founder also has an O1 visa. Like I have this like amazing, she has this amazing lawyer. Like I'll like get you in touch with them. And that was the lawyer that, got me my work visa without an employer and without a sponsor. I became my own sponsor. Well, at first, like my boyfriend was my agent. So I was a person of extraordinary ability in natural language processing. And then I made an LLC, and then the LLC was my own sponsor, basically, which, I mean, something only, speaking of Jewish people, this lawyer is Raquel Milstein. I love her. I think of her as like my mother, my American mother. She has like a doctorate, like a Juris Doctorate, in immigration law. So this was a very creative, like loophole kind of thing, that it was legal, but not a lot of people were aware that it can be done. And so it did make it hard for me to get employment in America. So I kind of like had to go with like startups, like super like early stage startups. That were like,
at this time, did you already finish school?
no, I was like in my so this was at this point it was like 20, it had, it was like February 2018, I think, to March. I was in my 2-year extension from my PhD. But the cool thing about my PhD program and like my professor was that I had already published research with him like before starting my PhD. Like I was my professor's first PhD student. And now he's like the head of the department of computer science at the University of Bucharest. So we kind of started together. Well, he was already like an assistant professor, but like we did a lot of like early work together. And so we had like a very, very strong trust with each other. So he was like, I don't care where you are when you do your work. Like, as long as we publish, you can be in like China. I don't care. Okay. So I was working full time throughout my PhD program, or like partying in New York and Berlin, fucking around, procrastinating from the jobs, and the work. But like in February 2018, when I had applied for the O1 visa and I was waiting to get it, like I had not obtained the PhD yet. I got it in October 2019.
From the college in Bucharest,
the University of Bucharest, which is not an online university. Okay, you guys. Even though my professor said that I can be wherever I want, I was getting the special treatment because I was a fucking nerd.
Well, so you got your PhD in what?
Computer science.
Computer science.
And my bachelor's is in computer science, also from the University of Bucharest. And I have 2 master's degrees that I did before starting my PhD because I just forgot to leave school. One in linguistics and the other one in artificial intelligence, because the professor I was working with was starting to work in this, at the time, very new field, natural language processing. Yeah. So it was kind of like the linguist nerds meeting with the computer scientist nerds to figure out how to make the computer talk like people. And there wasn't really like a program at the time in Romania, like in 2011, 2010, like a master's program that was specifically for natural language processing. Now there is, led by my professor, of course, my advisor. And so I had to like kind of create it myself. So I just asked him like, hey, so I want to do what you do. How do I do that? And he was like, oh, go study theoretical linguistics with my wife at the other faculty in the same university, like 2 streets down. And I was like, okay, that sounds chill.
So when you linguistics, you're not talking about like actual like fucking like
Chomsky stuff? No, I am. Like
I'm talking about like languages. Do you like?
Yeah, so like linguistics.
Do you speak different languages?
I mean, yeah, I speak Romanian, English. I understand all the Romance languages. I studied French in high school. I guess I'm not fluent in it. I'm trying to get better at Spanish. I also studied German. Like, yeah, I do. I would say I have somewhat of a interest in foreign languages.
When you got your visa and you were in New York, how long did you stay with this guy that you were going back?
It's just like 3 months, and then I was like, shit, I can't make it in New York. It's too expensive. The startups that are over here don't like they're kind of flaky, and they don't really like offer anything interesting to me and for my specialty, that sounds like I'm autistic, which I probably am, but my expertise. And so I I contacted a friend who had just started. Well, actually, a friend who had moved the year prior to the Bay Area. And I was like, yo, remember that time when, you were telling me to move to the Bay Area? Is that job still available? Like, can I come through? Like, what's going on? I need a job. And he's like, oh my God, yes, we still need you to do the thing that we talked last year when you didn't have a visa. Yeah, come through. Like, we got you.
Have you ever been to the Bay Area before?
No.
Or to California?
No.
Mm.
I was so clueless. Like, I never really like intended to move to America.
Mm-hmm.
It was straight, like literally just for this dude. I was like, oh yes, I will totally like randomly follow this guy. I was so clueless. It's like such a clueless European that I thought that like, all those movies that are filmed in LA and have like palm trees, those are like in New York. Like I could not distinguish New York from LA, like in Hollywood movies. So,
Yeah.
And I had no idea about San Francisco. Like I knew about the Silicon Valley, the Bill Gates building a computer and building the personal computer in his garage with his Romanian friend or whatever. So I was kind of like aware of the lore, but like I was very clueless.
What year was this when you came to the Bay Area?
I set foot in San Francisco May 2018.
2018. Did you come with the guy?
Yes, he stayed with me exactly 1 month in a hacker house, and then he was like, "I'm peace out." He went to LA because he wasn't a tech person, and like I feel like the Bay Area, especially like San Francisco, South Bay, is just like tech people.
What did he do for a living?
Music publicist, so PR for like Universal Records.
So he just didn't like the San
Francisco?
Francisco?
Like there's no music. Well, I mean, okay, at the time he's white, so at the time he was very clueless, and he was not aware. I mean, I think he was aware of the Oakland rappers and hip hop scene, but
so he was into hip hop.
Yeah,
Okay.
White guy, like in music, yes, of course. But so he was aware of it, but he didn't have any contacts in Oakland. And so he's like, I'm gonna go hang out with my friends in LA.
Mm-hmm. And did you guys break up, or you just became long distance again?
It was like, yeah, we stayed long distance, but it was just, it started to really erode at that point. Like once he went to LA and I was like working in Mountain View and like commuting from the hacker house in Noe Valley to like Mountain View every day and trying to make the like 10 a.m. stand up on the Caltrain. It was a huge culture shock, and it was like my first like serious job, even though technically it was like serious engineering job, even though really it was just a Series B startup in Mountain View, with like 30 people in the office. Like it was not really like that intense, but yeah, like the work culture in Europe is very different from America. And I kind of like didn't get the experience of the work culture until like that one job in Mountain View.
How did you, I mean, the job cool, but how did you feel about like San Francisco?
I thought it was like the most beautiful city in the world. Like before moving, I was like, oh God, I don't want to go to like the nerds, like the nerd capital of the world. And that's what I thought the Bay Area was, before moving there. And I remember telling my friends in Brooklyn, like I was in some like warehouse with musicians, like filming some sort of show. And it was like the first group of people that I was telling, I have a job in Silicon Valley. Like, I think I have to go. Like, I think I can't fuck around with you guys anymore. I'm so sorry. I mean, obviously I didn't say it like that, but those were the vibes. They're like, oh my God, that sounds so cool. You should totally go. And I'm like, wait, really? Wait, why? Isn't New York cooler than San Francisco? Mm-hmm. But now that I've been here, I'm like, oh my God, San Francisco's the best.
So you liked it better than New York?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Okay. You say you're from Romania.
Yeah, I grew up in Bucharest, the
What
capital.
was your life like there?
Completely different. I mean, I grew up, I'm an only child, an only grandchild. My parents are also engineers, not software engineers. Like, mom is mechanical engineer, dad is electronics engineer. So they're kind of like upper middle class.
Mhm.
That for Spotify context, I just fidgeted too much. And my ring got stuck in my earring. Anyway, talking about my background, but yeah, my parents were huge nerds. Very like, trying to get me to be like an overachiever. They totally didn't get me like checked up for ADHD, even though I remember my first grade teacher being like, yo, she needs help.
Mm.
She's like, what was Sora Victorica. I went to a Catholic school, so my parents are Catholic. So I think she was like, the way she got cued in that I was inattentive was that I would write 4 loops for M instead of 3 sometimes.
Mm.
For
So
the calligraphy.
we'll get into the
Yeah.
ADHD in a minute. The culture in Romania.
Oh yeah, very different. Like patriarchal, very homogenous, white folks.
Is it like a city or were you like a small
no,
town?
it's the capital. Yeah, it's 2 million people. It's like a 2-3 million people. It's
Mm.
quite large, and I grew up in the center. That's part of the reason why I kind of wasn't in a particular hurry to do what everybody else in my high school did, which was to go study abroad. And why I stayed in Bucharest and just went like next door to the University of Bucharest. That's like literally in the center of the city, because it just felt like I was very privileged growing up there, and I was in a bubble, and I thought, I thought like, oh, why should I go to a different country when I can just like get my education here? Like, I don't get it. And I only started getting it like once I started doing research, and I was like, oh, because nobody cares about me if I'm in Romania. Nobody cares about my work if I'm in Romania. Got it. Oh, because there's like not enough money for like fundamental research in Romania. Got it. Okay.
Did you like growing up in Romania? Like, or were your parents like were they like very strict with you?
I mean, like super early childhood, like my parents were like kind of absent. Like my mom was a little bit of a workaholic. And my dad was working from home, but like he was like immersed in his electronics projects to the point where I swallowed a capacitor one time because I was like so bored, and like I was pretending it was a microphone. Like I stole like a capacitor from his table, and I pretended it was a microphone, and I accidentally swallowed it.
Mm.
So that kind of like, kind of not fully present with me, early childhood parent experience. My grandparents basically raised me for the most part, which was like a cultural thing. Like I think majority of the kids in my generation in Bucharest were raised by their grandparents. I don't advocate for that. It's kind of trashy.
Mm.
You like definitely need parents to be present like in your upbringing. Yeah.
Or they're black people in?
Well, we have had slavery.
That's
So we are guilty of that. Not chattel. What is the one that America invented? Chattel slavery or whatever.
Mm.
But still, we had bondage. We had people in bondage. They were like refugees, I guess, from India. So darker skinned, like brown folks. But yeah, we don't. I think there are like Black immigrants now from like Nigeria, maybe. But
Are you still Catholic?
no.
Did you go to an all-girls school?
It wasn't that bad. It was accidentally all girls. It wasn't intentionally all girls. Yeah, so they kind of. I had like 3 boys in my class, like in junior high. But it was kind of accidental. They just like all decided to move to the other class, and the girls decided to move to our class. So then it ended up kind of being like gender separated, but not intentionally. Yeah, I wore like a Catholic school uniform and everything. And then in high school, I went to like the nerd high school of Romania, signature nerd, like where all the MIT, UC Berkeley, Stanford, Harvard, whatever grads would be like poached from. And there, like the irony was that, there wasn't any uniform officially, but everybody wore jeans and a metal band t-shirt.
Okay.
So there was an unofficial uniform.
Did your parents push you into what you studied in college, or was this
Not
something
really.
that you were passionate about?
I was really curious about physics, like theoretical physics, from an early age. I actually went to a physics Olympiad, but like I didn't qualify because like I definitely needed Adderall to like get qualified for like later stages. But I think, I got through some of the stages, but the International Physics Olympiad in junior high. But yeah, I was excited to do that. But then somewhere around like 7th or 8th grade, like we had to like kind of make a decision of what, Romanians kind of like have to decide what high school to go to. And then there's like I don't even know what's going on now, but in my generation, like you were fighting against everyone in the city to go to a specific high school. So you applied, your entire grades and this like national level exam, the grades that you would get in that exam would like determine and the options, like your preferences for your selection of high schools, like determined where you ended up through this like weird algorithm. So, you had to kind of like start thinking about what you wanted to do like around 7th grade. And that was like around the time that I saw Hackers, the movie with Angelina Jolie. And I had a crush on Angelina Jolie and I had a crush on everybody else in that movie. And I was like, oh shit, Dad, how do I get to be like these people? And so my dad just like paid some like neighborhood kid who was like setting up like the internet, the like local LANs, just paid him to like give me hacker hacking lessons. I don't know. So he taught me like Visual Basic, I guess. And then and then I learned how to code, and then I started studying computer science in junior high. Like we had a 1 hour per week that we were like doing coding in Pascal. And so it just like kind of, I just naturally fell into it. And so when it came time to decide like what to do with high school, like I just like noticed I was really good at it, at computer science. So like around the end of 8th grade, my parents were like, kind of like, they were expecting me to continue to go to the like high school part of that Catholic school, because they had like grade 1 through, like they had kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. They just had assumed that. And I kind of got a little upset. I was like, wait, why did you just assume that I wanted to go to, like, because this isn't a good high school. Like, it's not, nobody wants to go to this high school. Unlike America, where like Catholic schools are pretty decent.
No, they're not.
So, right. I don't know either. I don't have kids in America. So I was like, wait, why am I not going to Vianu, like the high school next door to me that also is like, for all of the nerds? I am a nerd. Like, it's like renowned for computer science. It literally, the computer science is in the name of the it's like Tudor Vianu, Colegio Nazionale de Informatica Tudor Vianu. Like, why wouldn't I go there? So I told them that, and they're like, oh, okay, sure. So I don't know. Like, it just kind of like snowballed from there once I got admitted. Yeah.
When people say coding, and like everyone hears that, I'm a coder, I learned how to code. What exactly is coding? Like, what are you doing?
Programming. I write instructions that the computer follows and basically build my own software from scratch.
Now, explain it in like a dummy term.
Okay. So when people made the computers, when the electronics nerds figured out how to like do the like zeros and one bullshit, right? There were some electronic nerds, guys, probably white, who were like, okay, we gotta create a language that enables us to kind of like hard code commands that the computer can do. Like besides the like 1 + 1, that's what a calculator does. The computer can write and read from like peripherals and, change information that it stores in a memory. And so like all of a sudden you can do all these additional things that you couldn't do before with a tool. And so like, oh, I guess we need a language for it. So because they were dudes, they came up with a shitty language. So because I am not fully 100% girly, I kind of like get the way that they think. It's like, oh, this is like so stupid. Okay, like this is like less than a foreign language. I got this. So I just learned, all these like different programming languages and found it exciting to tell the computer to do shit for me.
So when you say tell the computer to do shit, you're talking about like give me an example. Like just anything the computer does.
I mean, right now, like I'm focusing.
Like I'm looking at my computer, language. Right? And if I want to open up Safari, right? There has to be a code to like tell the computer that.
Yeah,
I don't do that's what coding is.
Systems. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So it's telling the computer that I'm pushing this button and this is the internet needs to pull.
I love the fact that you're letting me girlsplain.
I mean, shit. Well, I don't understand
really appreciate it.
I'm still confused.
I'm sorry. So you've never coded before?
No, I never fucking code. No.
Well, have you ever do you write scripts? I guess your show isn't scripted, but like you must have like written stuff at some point in English, right?
Yeah. So that's coding.
Yeah, that's like you are essentially writing notes for yourself that probably you will execute,
So writing a script and then the actors go perform what you write.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like very much like a script kiddie, yes.
Okay. And then as new technology and as computers get better, new codes have to people have to create
new languages,
codes.
New codes. Yeah, it's like a whole ecosystem.
Nice.
I mean, right now we've gotten to a point where people in my field, not me, but I was sort of there when it happened. With GPT, like it's gotten to a point where you don't really have to know coding languages anymore, and you can just like ask GPT to do it for you. But I would argue that even though you're kind of using like natural language, like just plain English, you still have to kind of put yourself in the position of the executor, right? Like GPT, and learn how it operates and what its limitations are in order to know what to ask of it and how to ask it to do it. And so because of that, one could argue that like the instructions that you give in plain language to GPT are like still programming language.
Now, I always, when you want to know about the future, right, you can always watch a movie, right? And that would tell you how the future will
artists.
be.
Yeah, artists.
Like if you watch the old school James Bond movies when he was talking into his watch, and that was back in like the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
And now you have Apple Watches.
Yep.
We have when you watch like Blade Runner or something back in the day, like self-driving cars. Now you have Teslas that can drive themselves. So you can always tell when you watch like sci-fi movies how the future is going to be.
I know. I'm the one building the future, but I'm not like a sci-fi junkie. It's kind of sad.
But I say that to ask this question. What do you think? Because you're into like AI and shit, right? So do you feel like AI is, I mean, it's already taken over, but do you feel like it's going to get bad to where like
it's already pretty bad.
But like bad to where like
sci-fi level bad? Yeah, probably. But like it's just like it's never how you really anticipate. I mean, I'm trying to be on the side of the good kids, but you know.
Do you think it's better if we create technology that will take jobs, or do you think we need that human mind to where that?
I think that's a false dichotomy. I think we've been like automating jobs since like the steam engine, and like people have been like laid off because of a new tool that was invented that like automated their work. So that's not the problem. I think that the state of where we have these large language models right now is where the atomic bomb was. And I think that there needs to be like a sort of like world level agency that regulates AI the way that nuclear weapons are regulated right now.
Do you think that's possible to regulate AI?
Yes.
How?
You just ask the people who make it to be nice about it and not make weird shit.
No, it'll just be nice. Yeah. Like that's gonna work.
I mean, it's still we're still the ones like driving. I mean, sure, like there's driverless cars, but like, you know, it's still people who own companies that make driverless cars. So like you just ask the people to stop doing it or like to do it in a way that is mindful of the humans it is replacing.
I want you to create a gun, but create a nice gun. That sounds ridiculous, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing at work, but anyway.
Do you can you name something bad about can you name an AI software or anything that's specific to AI that's bad?
Yeah, all of it. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna like, this is not my work. Like I don't work in ethics of AI. You know, I'm not like a philosopher of new technology. I do have like colleagues from like high school and college who like, one guy did like a double PhD in computer science and philosophy, and he was talking about non-people. It was great chat. But yeah, that's not my focus. However, yeah, you just have to open like a book like Weapons of Mass Destruction, and you'll, you know, find out all you need to know about how AI is being misused, and how it is, in my head, it is like a tool of the white supremacy, white supremacist.
Do you think it's needed though?
Some of it is useful. Yeah. Like, I don't know, like, I came here with a Lyft, because I don't have a driver's license because I have ADHD and I forgot to get one. Lyft uses, recommendation algorithms and optimization algorithms in the like AI pricing algorithms on the back end to like, find you a driver, like, determine what price, how much money to ask you for the ride and so forth. I could have also like gotten like here by BART. So, it's not really, it's a little redundant, but in a Lyft, the only thing I have to worry about is like doing chit chat with the driver, like I don't
So it's
have
convenience, basically.
Right. It's a little lazy. Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about what you got a PhD in. Can you nerd out a little bit about that?
Oh my God. Yes. So my PhD had like a super generic name, like the thesis, because I didn't know what I was going to write about. I just knew that I had to get it because it was the beginning of my career, not the end of a career. Unlike, in previous generations when people would get like PhDs in their 80s or something. And so I said computational aspects in natural language processing. And basically I just like talked about how you can automate or how you can take, the computer that we have now and make it so that it understands natural language. Or gives off the impression that it understands natural language. It at least operates on natural language. So yeah. So I did a bunch of stuff. It took like, I think 6 years to complete, 5 years? 5 years to complete. Published a few papers.
Is that a requirement to get something published?
Yeah, it's a requirement in Romania. And it's like, you have to get them published in like quote unquote reputable venues, which is not something that's required over here. So I'm kind of like, at first, when I started to like kind of like find hit the first, obstacle in my career, first like pushback. And I was like, fuck, why am I in Romania? I should have like gone into America, for this sort of work. And when I was like starting to regret it, like the fact that I had to do all those things, like I had to publish to have like published work in like reputable venues, like looking back on, I'm like, that's the reason why I don't regret doing it in Romania as opposed to America. Because here, like I've interacted with a lot of like PhD students who like, or like PhD grads, who are like, or like Stanford dropouts from grad school that are like, CEOs and co-founders of their like AZ backed, Andreessen Horowitz backed, startup, but they never like published anything. Like nobody really, like they didn't actually do anything during their grad school. They just like did a little like project in their dorm and that's it. Whereas like I actually had to convince like reviewers, like random ass reviewers from America that like, my work wasn't a silly little project in my bedroom, but it was. But, I had to convince them that it wasn't. Yeah. So it was somehow like unintuitively more rigorous. But yeah, I kind of like, having like a linguistics background, having obtained a linguistics background prior to starting my PhD, like I kind of approached my computer science PhD from a linguistic perspective. And I was like, well, the way the linguists look at language is they kind of like determine what the unit of analysis is. So that's why we have different units and different levels of analysis of language. So you have phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, pragmatics, discourse, right? So it's like phonology is looking at the phoneme, like the sounds that we make, right? And like how they like combine. And then morphology is looking at, how you take the word eat and you add the like suffix er and it suddenly becomes a different word, and like why do you do that? Or it looks at inflectional morphology, which that was like one of my first articles, which is like English doesn't really have it, but Romance languages have it quite a bit, including Romanian, which is like when you're conjugating verbs, like when you're like using a specific verb in context, it will just look differently depending on the context, like here in English, it's like I eat, you eat, everybody eats. But in Romanian, it's like, the like core of the word completely changes to a point where a computer can't really like those are appear as two different words. So that's like morphology, computational morphology. And then I did kind of like a lot of text classification that was like super trendy when I was doing my PhD, or right before, is this like, what's the overall sentiment of this like news article or this like Amazon review, is it positive or negative? So, that was like a type of thing that I would solve, or like, what's the, given a description of a legal case, what is the likely decision that the judge will make in the Supreme Court of France? Yeah, I kind of got like AI illegal in France, low-key, in my PhD work. But anyway.
How did your parents feel when you said you were moving to the States?
Well, I tricked them. I told them that I'm going to marry this man. And then they sent me some money, and then I used that money to pay my immigration lawyer to get me an extraordinary visa.
So your parents knew the guy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, they never like met him, but yeah, they knew of him. But yeah, they were kind of like, their hands were tied because I was already here. Like, what could they do? Like, come after me? Like, and I had lived with them until I was 25. So, like our, their ability to be overbearing and overprotective kind of was like, coming to an end.
So you said, when did you get diagnosed with ADHD?
In October 2021.
And before you got diagnosed, did you know about ADHD?
Vaguely. I thought it was just for boys who are like hyperactive. And I'm combined. I'm like inattentive and hyperactive.
So what signs were you like growing up?
I thought I was autistic. So I was suspecting, I'm still officially not diagnosed with autism, but yeah, I was suspecting I was neurodiverse or on the spectrum or something. But I knew I had trouble like focusing, and I was procrastinating, and like the focus was kind of like either I was like all in or all out. Like I couldn't be like a little bit in, So yeah, I always knew there was like something wrong, but it only became apparent that I was impulsive like when, I got stuck in America. Like trying to get a work visa. I was like, wait, what? I had a job in Germany. How did what happened? It was like literally like over the course of 6 months, I like got a work visa, like a tourist visa. And then I was like back and forth between Germany and New York. And then I was done with the German job. And I went back to Bucharest, but I was working for like people in New York remotely. And then I was like, how did I do that in such a short time span? And it must be because I couldn't focus.
Was anything going on to make your parents take you to the doctor to get diagnosed?
Yeah, I mean, therapy, mental health is like frowned upon or was frowned upon. Like there was a lot of stigma around getting help in Romania when I was growing up. So I do have like a vague memory of my parents taking me to a doctor, but it was a different type of doctor. It wasn't a mental health doctor.
Mental health doctor.
No, it wasn't a psychiatrist or psychologist. It was just, I don't know what type of doctor it was, but.
And that doctor diagnosed you with ADHD?
No, I got diagnosed as an adult. I never had a diagnosis as a kid. So I basically raw dogged life until 2021.
Do you feel, what's the word I'm looking for? Do you feel any sort of anger, but not just anger, but about your parents, not giving you help then?
Yeah, I was like very, very disappointed with them. I was like, what? You're like, oh my God, I can't believe like my parents are the like basically the like Eastern European version of anti-vaxxers. Where like, you know, they just didn't want to give Adderall to their kid. Yeah, I was like really upset. I talked to them. But now that there's an Adderall shortage and I am not on Adderall, I'm on like an SNRI, I'm very grateful.
What's that? SNRI, what's that?
SNRI is like a non-stimulant like medication that helps with like the release of dopamine in the brain. So it makes sure that you don't just like completely dump your dopamine on like Instagram or something. You know, you just like, you kind of dump a little bit of it like slowly throughout the day. So that helps you focus. So it's selective neuroepinephrine and dopamine reuptake inhibitor. So it works similarly to an SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, like Zoloft and Prozac. Which is
so you went your whole adolescent life without taking these drugs and being diagnosed, right? So do you feel like you need these drugs, or do you think it's something, or do you think these drugs are pushed on people because everyone knows like the medical system is just
Adderall,
they're
like,
here for the money.
I'm thankful that I never like tasted Adderall and never got hooked on it, because I did end up having later on, as I was like, you know, procrastinating with the music scene in New York, I did develop a cocaine addiction. So, sorry, not addiction, because I'm neurodiverse and addiction research is usually on neurotypicals. Cocaine problem, let's call it. Yeah, so there's definitely like a bad dark side to big pharma, which is, you know, the Adderall stuff, the opiate stuff, but then there's also a good side to it, which is like the shit that I'm on, that's kind of helping me get through my workday without having a meltdown.
Do you know, like, how does one get diagnosed with ADHD? Like, what is a doctor looking for? Do you know?
So I had to like straight up like Google it. It only like occurred to me that might be the issue when I talked to someone who said that they were recently diagnosed, and they were also a female friend. And I was like, oh shit, wait, why did you get recently diagnosed? And then I was kind of like, it kind of was like, wait, literally everyone around me has mentioned ADHD at some point to me. Oops. Like whether it was because they themselves were, you know, had that diagnosis or had suspicions that was their diagnosis or because people had suspicions that was my diagnosis. People definitely mentioned it. Like the word ADD, ADHD was thrown around quite often. And so what I had to do was pay to get seen by a nurse with a master's degree in nursing science to do a test. And it normally, like, if you don't have ADHD, like the test will take an hour. For me, it took 2 days. Like she had
What was
like
the
2
test?
hours. It was 2
What
hours.
was on the test?
It was just a bunch of questions about my like my day-to-day and my childhood. And it was like, do you feel like you have trouble, like staying on track when you're doing something? Or do you feel like, you often don't know what people asked you?
How many, like, do you remember how many questions? Like, what is it, 20
It was
questions?
probably 20
50?
questions, and it
Took you
like
2 days?
Well, it was like 2 hours, like, two sessions, 2-hour sessions.
And they diagnosed you just because of written tests?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was just from the conversation.
So I can talk to a doctor and...
Yeah, if you're a good actor, yeah.
And
you can,
just say some shit, and then now I'm diagnosed with ADHD.
Yeah. And then you get SNRIs prescribed.
Girl. So you might not even have ADHD.
Maybe not. Maybe
you just think maybe you're just hyper.
I mean, yeah, that's the medical term for ADHD.
But you actually
for hyper people, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think hyper people need
medication.
Yes.
I mean, I agree.
It's like kids. Like if you have a kid that's just hyper, it's a fucking kid. All kids are hyper.
Well, yeah, like when I first like became aware of it, and I started talking to and got diagnosed and got the medication and saw the difference, like I was definitely a different person once the medication started working. I kind of like I was like, okay, like I was like upset with my parents, blah blah blah, but then after I had been in it for a while, and had started talking to other people about it, friends, blah, 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 I realized it only makes sense if you're trying to do STEM stuff. And like very like if you're ambitious, basically. Like if you're ambitious and you want to make it in like this neurotypical world, you have to play the game like neurotypicals. And the only way to do that is with this medicine. If you're trying to be like, an influencer, like if you're trying to have this like very atypical career, or you're like a musician, when like it's not, nobody expects you to like, put something out in a regular format, and at a very normal, like steady pace, which I mean that's kind of like slowly not been the case anymore. Like I feel like people put out like a song every 2 months or something. So it is now kind of like expected that you're like very like on the game. Are we in the 1 hour mark?
No, that's someone calling me.
Oh.
Continue.
It's like, oh shit. But yeah, so like, yeah, if you're trying to be a musician, an artist, like fuck around, like you don't need SNRI to fuck around and find out. But if you're trying to like, LARP as a normal person, then you need it.
How does ADHD? I mean, does it affect your like day-to-day life or your love life?
Oh my God, yes.
In what ways?
I mean, I just like I've never dated. Like I just always like the impulsivity just like makes me jump into a relationship with someone that's like not the right person for me, obviously. So that's one thing. But then
do you like you say you jump in quickly? Do you jump out quickly as well?
Define quickly and define jumping
like
out.
when you like you're impulsive when it comes to like men, right? You'll get in a
And
relationship
women,
faster than the normal person would, right?
Yes.
And then once you're in that relationship, I don't know, like a couple months later, do you get like bored and be like, you know what, maybe I don't like you as much as I thought?
Yes, but I have a hack for that, which is to find toxic men that make it spicy. So like, with toxic men, you can get around like 2 years,
Mm-hmm. You're bisexual?
Yeah. I like girls and boys and theys and she theys and they thems and he theys.
Mm.
Yeah.
Great. Are you
And I'm gender fluid, which kind of makes it hard because
what does that mean?
it's like my gender identity is conditioned on the gender expression of the person I'm interacting with. So if I feel like if I get a masculine vibe from the person I'm interacting with, then I will feel feminine. And if I'm getting a feminine vibe from a person, then I'll feel like I'm not as feminine as them. Like I'm a little more like, I don't know, just definitely not as feminine as them. I won't feel like a dude, but yeah. So in that way, it kind of like fluctuates. But that's made it like the combination of liking all these different people, but then like some people making me feel not feminine meant that a lot of the people that would out me, like if I like walked around holding hands with a girl or like a masculine presenting girl in Romania, that would people would be like, oh, okay. But the fact that I kind of get gender dysphoria in like long-term serious relationships with those types of people, and with those identities.
Have you ever got tested to be a genius?
Like IQ test?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did IQ tests.
Did you like score very high?
I did the like one that's like only visual, and I think I was like not that high. I was like 129 or something.
Yeah. Because I mean, when you talk, I mean, your educational background is impressive. You say you got 2 masters and a doctorate.
Yeah. I had to pay for one of them. Okay, so like it was free. Like school in Romania is free, so I don't have debt. I don't have school debt. But yeah, I enjoyed having intellectual conversations with people in the university.
When you are dating someone, right?
I'm not.
I'm just saying. Does it
single.
does
I'm
it
not.
does it affect? Well, not affect, but when you're like at a dinner table on a dinner date.
Yeah, I'll lose like my focus or like interrupt or.
Well, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about. Do you find it hard to find someone equally as knowledgeable?
100%. Yeah, like yes.
Or do you don't care about that type of shit?
I mean,
like how like you're talking on this podcast about like science and linguistics and all that stuff, and if this was like a dinner date, the person sitting across from you, if he is not as well versed in what you are well versed, is that a turnoff or?
I mean, yeah, they do have to be a nerd for sure. I have dated my fair share of, dated, I don't know, went on dates with and gotten into relationships with some big ass nerds in the past. But yeah, it's been hard. To find someone that like, matches my nerd.
Yeah. What do you think is the best creation? Do you think the computer or the iPhone? Which one of those creations do you think is better for like the world?
For the world. Well, I can pay with my iPhone, so that seems somewhat more useful than the computer.
So the iPhone is a more genius device.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. I can just keep it in my pocket. It's like my my little pet. I can't code on it though yet, but I'm sure that'll become more available.
Did you know they're teaching like inmates to code? No,
that's great.
Yeah, there's whole courses that they want inmates to code because these companies obviously want cheap labor.
Of course.
So
yeah.
they get these inmates to learn how to code, and then they're going to hire them while they're in prison to work for like $1 a day.
Wow. Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I do know that I am aware that the industrial prison complex in America is a remnant of slavery, like a loophole of making slavery
Tell me
illegal.
something illegal that you've done.
Illegal. Let me think. I hacked into my boyfriend's computer and read his texts with other girls.
Oh, wow.
One of my boyfriends.
What did you find out?
What I already knew, that he was like meeting other girls.
How did you hack his computer?
I didn't really. He just like left it open.
But do you know how to hack a computer?
I mean, okay. I know how to like hack a website, I guess. Like I know how to get like data from a database.
Can you hack into a bank and then like deposit money into people's person's account?
I did see people do that. Yes, I did not do that myself.
So you're telling me you can go in my bank account and hack it and then put $10,000 in my shit?
No, I cannot. Okay, but
yes, you can.
But I did work for the Romanian antivirus company Bitdefender next to the penetration testers, which is a fancy word for like hackers that have a day job, like a legal day job. And they were hacking into PayPal. Like they figured out like they figured out that the admin password was just like being sent like over and over again, so they could like brute force figure out what the password was. So they got the admin password for PayPal. So they were like, yeah, so now we can like transfer money from any PayPal account into any other PayPal account.
Wow. That's
they
lovely.
Obviously, they were like gray hats. So they were like, they made PayPal aware of the vulnerability and then were like, hey, so can we interest you in some antivirus? So they were kind of like the marketing team,
Okay, yeah. So we show you that you need our services because we just proved that your shit is whack.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I worked with Romanian software engineers who owned the PayPal mafia, basically.
Oh. That's cool.
Yeah.
What are you doing now in your life?
I just reconnected with my high school crush.
Okay.
Went on 2 dates. He is totally busy doing my best friend.
What? Doing your best friend?
Dating one of my friends and whatever, the bae that I introduced him to. Broke up with my boyfriend of 2 years. And I'm immersing myself in my work. I work from home. And I work on a DARPA project called Computational Cultural Understanding. I help a team at SRI that was there when Siri was created and sold to Apple. So I help people from there make their machine translation models.
Do you know how much Siri was? So Siri wasn't an invention that Apple did?
No, it was made at my employer. And then my employer sold it. And now they're getting money from Microsoft.
So you were part of the team that created Siri?
No. I am now like working with people who were around at SRI when Siri was created at SRI.
Oh, okay.
But no, I'm not that cool. I'm not that old. I did meet the guy who created Siri, Adam Kyer. He was really cool. I mean, I didn't meet him in person. He was doing like a Zoom thing at SRI talking about his new app.
Do you know how much it was sold for?
Very little, I'm guessing. Like probably little? Peanuts. Like
6 billion?
No, like probably in the millions. So the patent was sold and then to Apple. And only recently, like a couple of months ago, like Cortana, like Microsoft lost a case, like a patent infringement case to Apple. So now Microsoft has to pay Apple a bunch of money, like hundreds of millions of dollars. So like there's rumors that SRI is going to get part of that money as well, since they were the original owners of the patent or the filers of the patent. I don't know if that's true though. Like it's just rumors.
So if Apple owns like the patent of Siri, how is it that like Amazon and like Google can have Alexa and all the like basically the same shit with just a different
monopoly, like tech oligopoly. You know,
do they just change like do they just change like a small detail to make it
I mean,
you can't sue us?
When a company like becomes as large as Microsoft or Amazon, both of which have had like, you know, the FTC or FDC or whatever, like knock on the door and be like, hey, I think you have a monopoly here. When you have that kind of a company, you have the type of resources needed to win legal cases in the American court of law. So that's how that works. But I guess, you know, Microsoft fucked around with Apple and found out that Apple is more powerful than Microsoft in this one particular case. And now they have to pay up. But I mean, for them, like a few $100 million is like peanuts again. So it's like it's almost like it never happened.
Doesn't Microsoft own the software to where when everyone swipes their like credit card, whatever that software is, doesn't Microsoft own that?
PayPal? I'm not sure.
No, not PayPal. I'm just talking
Visa,
about like you know how when you swipe a Visa, a credit card, or anything, that there's a software that or code or something where
Microsoft owns a lot of shit.
That fucking when you swipe your card, there's something that happens between the card and whatever.
Yeah,
I think
the machine,
Microsoft,
the chip reader.
Yeah, Microsoft
probably
owns that software or some shit.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was seeing like when I was doing my PhD and I was like still in Romania working for the antivirus company. I was like, Google was like trying to patent like, you know, like algorithms like that had been in the public domain for like decades, you know, like, you know, trying to patent like how you get like the computer to figure out if a number is prime or like odd or even, you know, like something really basic, which you can do when you have a lot of money.
You said you had do you have an addictive personality?
Oh my God. Yes. Of course.
When you were in Romania, did you dabble with drugs, or you just
No, I
started when
was
you were in
like,
New York?
I was hella straight edge when I was in Romania. Well, I mean, unless, you count alcohol, which every Eastern European like has a taste of, like, from early teenage years.
Do you feel like you started to get into drugs in New York because it was around a lot, or
Yeah.
you were just in the party scene?
I was in the party scene. I was in the underground rave scene. But I think it was also like I was with the people that were doing it, but it was also a way of coping with not having my ADHD medicated, and also coping with the experience of being an immigrant. Like, it was a lot of anxiety. So, yeah.
And when did you become sober?
After I met you.
For real?
No. Soon after, though.
I had that effect,
So
I changed lives.
Yeah. No, it was December 31st, 2020. I was depressed, and it was New Year's Eve, and I was hanging out with my friend Wiki, shout out Wiki. And she was talking a lot, and she was high. Sorry. And I was like, man, I don't want to get high tonight. Like, I don't want to drink tonight. Like, I just want to see, like, what sort of people I hang out with when I'm not drinking or smoking or taking some other weird, mind altering substance. Because I was like, I had never really like I never went that far. Like, when I was living in Romania, like, being such a, like, person in a bubble kind of thing, a girl in the bubble. I would go to parties, I would go to, like, music events, but I would never, like, interact with people who were doing drugs through the drugs, right? Like, like, I would see them and I would be friends, but I just didn't know that about them because they wouldn't invite me to do, like, a little bump in the bathroom.
Yeah.
But once I, like, saw this other, version of reality where, like, the only way you interact with people is through a substance, mind altering substance. In New York at the parties, and I came back to Romania because obviously, like, I was like, I can't make it in New York. I have to go back. And I was, like, over Germany at that point. So I was like, oh. And then I kind of, like, was like, oh shit. All of my friends, from back in the day were like, come to the backstage. We got, all this stuff. And I was like, wow, I never, like, realized how much I was, like, limiting myself, like, how little of the human experience I was able to see when I wasn't doing drugs. Then when I was doing the drugs, it was great, and I was having all these experiences and basically getting enlightened. But, like, I didn't have the experience of being an adult, like a responsible adult. So I was like, okay, let me see how that is like. So I just like became dry, I guess. Like, I never
Was
went
it
to,
a
like, AA.
struggle
To be dry, like,
to be sober?
With alcohol, yes. With all the other stuff, no.
So you were able to just quit at the drop of a dime?
Cold turkey, yeah.
Never relapsed?
No. With alcohol, yes. But it wasn't like the relapses were, like, before, like, it was, like, kind of like in the middle of 2020. So before I made the decision, I really want to do this, and I told myself, I was like,
did you give up alcohol because you think if you gave up drugs and still drank, if you drank, it would be more easier for you to relapse, so you don't want to give up everything?
No, the thing with the alcohol was like very specific. I mean, my dad had like also an alcoholic period when I was growing up, which was somewhat traumatic. I've healed from it, but I don't think that alcohol was like a gateway to these other drugs. Quite the opposite. I think it kind of like kept me away from all the other drugs. But I think that I had reached the end of what I could get with it, if that makes sense. Like I was like really like blacking out, just from like one little sip kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, this is not cute anymore. Like I'm good.
Mm. Well, amazing story. I want to thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing your life with the world. Do you have any last? Do you want any? Do you have anything to promote? Do you have any socials you want to share with the people?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. My ID is like 8 to infinity, but like it's only 1 T. So people might misread it as 80 infinity or something. Because, my name is Octavia, which means the 8th. And I'm a nerd. Anyway, so I do have that. I don't really I'm on there. I don't do anything. But I am going to I have been working on a project at work that is going to hopefully, fingers crossed, by the time this comes out, it's going to be out. So it's going to be a demo that you can play with. So yeah, it's just something where you can input your the name of a product and the company that makes it, and this thing that I created will tell you what the carbon emissions are of that product to make that product and to transport it and to use it, all of the carbon emissions, not just the electricity that was used to, keep the office open. That's it. So check out sri.com at some point. I don't know, soon after this.
All right. Well, Octavia, thank you again.
Thanks.
This is Everyday Celebrity Podcast, and we are out.
Thank you.
You.